Hello Bookworms, it's Jade from Bedtime Bookworm, and welcome back to my channel. So for the month of December, I did a vlog style wrap up. It's kind of like a currently reading vlog basically for the whole month, but I was planning on posting it all in one chunk at the very end. And not surprisingly, my footage ended up being a lot more than I had anticipated. I'm just really not good at talking concisely about books, especially when I haven't planned ahead too much. You know, reading vlogs are more like in the moment and kind of just whatever comes to mind. Anyways, I had a lot of footage and I posted a poll on Twitter and asked if you guys would rather me just refilm a normal December wrap up where I talk about each book in one sitting, or if you guys would like me to split up my footage into 2 videos and get 2 reading vlogs for the month of December. And splitting the video into 2 reading vlogs was the winner of that poll, so that's what I've done for this month. So what you're about to watch now is the first half of my footage for December, and later this week I'll be posting the second half of my footage. I'm going to try again in the month of January to also do reading vlogs because I do really like that process. I need to work on thinking a little bit more about what I'm going to say before I pull out the camera and try not to repeat myself in different clips because that can be really tedious when you're editing. Regardless, I want to try and keep doing them because I do like the more in-the-moment style of reading wrap-ups. I just need to practice them, I think, and get a little bit better at it. Okay, without further ado, here is the first half of my December reading vlog. Hello Bookworms, it's Jade from Bedtime Bookworm, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am starting my vlog style wrap up for the month of December. Today is actually December 14th, and I finished my second book of the month last night and realized that I never actually took any clips talking about the first book that I finished. The first book that I finished in the month of December was The Queen of the Tearling. I actually finished it on December 2nd. I tried really hard to finish it in November so that I could talk about it in my November wrap up, but that didn't quite happen, which is fine. I was listening to this on audiobook, but I also had the ebook, so I would kind of switch back and forth. I actually had gotten both of these from Amazon, and it had the whisper sync where it syncs up between where you read in the ebook and where you stop listening in the audiobook. And I love that feature. I wish that buying ebooks and audiobooks together weren't quite as expensive as it is. Pretty much the only time that I do that is when there's a deal. I was able to get both of these books when there was a deal on them. For The Queen of the Tearling plus the audiobook, I think it was an extra $3, which is always worth it when it's that cheap to get the audiobook. My arm's already tired, especially when it has the whisper sync and all of that. I love whisper sync. If you guys like using whisper sync, let me know down in the comments. Anyways, I absolutely loved The Queen of the Tearling. I listened to it pretty much every day for a week until I finished it. For those of you who don't know, The Queen of the Tearling is the first book in, I think the series is called The Queen of the Tearling, something like that, but it's by Erika Johansen. It's a fantasy novel, and the main character, her name is Kelsey. She basically has known her whole life that she was the princess of the kingdom of the Tearling, but her mom sent her away when she was little to protect her. At the beginning of the book, she turns 18. The Queen's Guard basically comes to get her so that she can go back to the capital or the castle or whatever to take over and be queen. She's never known her mom, and her uncle has been regent since her mom died. I've heard so many good things about this series, and I'm really glad that I finally picked it up because it is really good. I will say that I don't consider this series to be YA. I would consider it to be more of an adult series. I honestly think it's a little bit of a bridge age category because she's 18, but there's also very adult themes that are touched on. You know, they talk about sex and there are some explicit scenes. I think just one. It's nothing super bad. And I would also give a trigger warning for self-harm because Kelsey does do a little bit of that, at least I interpreted it that way. So I wouldn't really consider this YA. Honestly, I would consider it new adult. I kind of hate that new adult has been synonymous with romance and explicit sort of books because I think new adult should be just an age category, just like young adult and adult. I feel like new adult should represent that age category in between YA and adult. Anyways, that's something I've been thinking about for a while, and I might do a discussion video about that sometime. If you're interested in that, let me know. I would consider this to be a new adult book if there wasn't that connotation associated with it, because it's not a romance. Even though there might be 1 or 2 explicit scenes, it's really not about that. It's more about Kelsey and her figuring out Oh my god, this clip is already 7 minutes. It's about Kelsey and her, like, figuring out how to rule the kingdom. I kind of did a terrible job explaining what the book is about, but I really liked it. I think I gave it 5 stars, maybe 4.5. And I went and picked up the second book in the series from my library right away. The second book that I finished, which I just finished last night, was The Isle of Blood by Yancey. It's the third book in the Monstromologist series. It was something that I had planned to read in the month of October. For the past couple years, I've read one of these Monstromologist books each October for, like, Halloween, and I just didn't get around to it this year. I'm still really glad that I read it. I really enjoyed it. It was a solid 4-star read. I feel like the monsters that are in these books are just really unique and interesting, and the characters are just, I love these characters. Will is my baby. I love him so much, and he has had such a hard life, and he's just going through so many different emotions at this time in his life. I think it starts with him being 11 in the first book, 12, and then he was 13. I think he'll be 14 in the next one, which is the last one. And honestly, the way that the epilogue ended for this third book, I'm really nervous about reading the last one. They kind of foreshadowed some stuff that I'm not looking forward to reading, but maybe I'm wrong about that. So I will still read it. Probably I will read it next October, though. I really like having that tradition for it. Guys, my arms hurt. I love the way Pellinor, who is the monstromologist, is presented. He's such an interesting character. It seems like he's had such an interesting life. He's presented as being, like, really ruthless and all about, you know, scientific discoveries, but then he has a really soft spot in his heart for certain people in his life, and I just love him, like, so much. I do want to say that if you have read Rick Yancey's Third Wave series and you didn't like it, please don't rule out reading the Monstromologist series. I mean, it's completely different. I mean, this is young adult, almost middle grade. I'd say it's like older middle grade, younger young adult, and it's horror. And there's, like, no romance. I personally really enjoyed the Fifth Wave series. I read all 3 of them and I enjoyed them, but I could see why some people wouldn't like them. They were a little cheesy at times, but I don't get that at all from the Monstromologist series. It's so interesting and refreshing, and even though it's sort of written for a younger audience, I really enjoyed the series. I love it. Okay, so those are the 2 books that I have finished so far this month. I am also reading The Invasion of the Tearling, which is the second book in that series. I'm like 90% through with it, though, so I will definitely be finishing that this weekend. I'm really enjoying it so far. And then the other book that I'm currently reading, I actually haven't picked it up in like 5 days because I'm considering DNFing it. That book is The Girl in Times Square by Paulina Simons, and that's actually a e-arc that I got off of, I think it's Edelweiss. I requested it because I recognized Paulina Simons' name. She's the author of the Bronze Horseman trilogy. And I mean, I knew it was romance, but when I was looking through Goodreads at other people's reviews and the description, people were saying that it's a really good combination of, like, romance and family saga and a murder mystery. So it sounded really interesting, right? Like, all 3 of those things. Like, I don't love romance, but I like the other things, and if they're all put together and well balanced, it sounded like I might like it. But yeah, I'm not enjoying it. And I'm 57% through. It's like 500 or 600 pages. So even though I've already read like more than half of it, I might DNF it, but I haven't quite decided. So when I do decide, I will let you know. Okay, so this clip is already 15 minutes long, pre-editing, of course. So I'm gonna end this clip here. Those are the things that I have read so far this month and the things that I am currently reading. I'll update you guys when I've read some more stuff. Hey guys, it's Saturday at about 6:30 in the evening, and I finished a book last night. Before I get started talking about books, these are some new glasses that I got. I'm pretty sure I like them. I'm still kind of getting used to them. I actually got 2 pairs, and I got them from the website Firmoo.com. You guys might have heard of them. They do a lot of collaborations with YouTubers, but I actually chose not to try and get a collaboration with them. I bought these with my own money. I'm thinking about doing a review on them because pretty much all of the reviews online are collaborations or sponsorships. Not that I'm saying that would change anyone's opinion, but I actually did pay for these and I do have an opinion to share. So I was thinking about maybe making a review video about like my experience with Firmoo. If you guys would be interested in that, let me know down in the comment section. Okay, so last night I finished the Invasion of the Tearling, which was the audiobook that I was listening to. I spent my Friday night doing some cross-stitching, as I like to do, and I like to listen to audiobooks while I cross-stitch. I finished that one up last night, and I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's a solid second book in a series. I didn't think it had, like, second book slump or anything, but at the same time, both of these books haven't been super action-packed. I think these are both very character-focused, and they're also full of, like, political intrigue, and it's more about, like, running a kingdom than being super action-packed. Like, there's not a lot of plot stuff happening. Like, there is a plot, but there wasn't a lot of up and down in the pacing, if that makes any sense. It was just like a steady pace through the whole book, and that's how the first one was too. So I wouldn't go into these looking for something super action-packed, because they're not, but they're still really interesting and really good. I really like the main character, Kelsey. So I've already started editing some of the clip that I took earlier this week, and I realized I said a lot of things, but there's a lot of things that I didn't say about the books either. So Kelsey is a really strong character, like emotionally. She knows what she wants to do, and she goes out and tries to do it. She cares a lot about her kingdom and wants to do what's best for them. And I also love that she's described on page as being very plain, as being like on the heavier side. So I like that she's not your typical super skinny, beautiful princess, you know. I really like that sort of representation. I want to talk a little bit about the world, because I realized as I was looking at the other footage that I mentioned that I really like the world, but I didn't really talk too much about it. So I keep calling this a fantasy, but you learn, I think in the first book I knew, but you learn a lot more about it in the second book, that this is actually our world, but in the future, but it's regress society, which is like one of my favorite types of worlds to read about. I've read a few others like that. I really love that setting. Once I read a few more books like that, I think I want to do some sort of like recommendation video, because it's a kind of unique world, you know. It's in the future, but it's regressed for one reason or another. And then on top of that, in this world, there actually is magic. So it's not exactly our world in the future, but it's supposed to be our world in the future. And what's interesting is they remember having technology and like medicine. Like, they know a lot about medicine, but they don't have the tools to necessarily like make medicine the way that we are able to in our time period. In the second book, you learn a lot more about how like the kingdom of the Tearling came to be, just like the history of it, and it was really interesting. I really liked it. Again, I want to emphasize this is definitely an adult book with adult topics. Trigger warning in the second book for, again, self-harm, but also like abuse and sexual abuse. So definitely not what I would consider YA, although I don't want to say that like just because it has those topics in it, it's not YA. You guys are your own people and you can decide what you can handle. So I'm just going to put a trigger warning on it so that you're aware. Yeah, so I finished that book last night and it was good. Solid 4 out of 5 stars, maybe even 4.5. I really enjoyed it. After I finished that audiobook, I needed to pick up a different audiobook because I was still cross-stitching. It wasn't quite late enough for me to stop. And I ended up picking up Salt to the Sea by Ruta Septys. I've read Ruta Septys' other book, which I cannot remember the name of at the moment, but both of these books take place during like the World War II time period, but are about like Lithuania and Stalin, which I think is really interesting because that's not really talked about all that often. Like, I didn't know anything about it until I read Ruta Septys' other book last year. You know, it's a book with like the girl and her eyes closed and there's snowflakes on her eyelashes. Why can I not remember what it's called? I don't know. I thought this whole book took place on a boat, and they're not on a boat yet, and I'm already 20% in, so I'm a little confused, but I'm sure they're heading to a boat. But yeah, that surprised me. I still am undecided on if I am going to DNF The Girl in Times Square by Paulina Simons. I realized that I didn't mention that I'm also reading another book, and that is the first book in the Mistborn series, so it's The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I am buddy reading that with my friend Shoshana. We're about 27% in. So that's going really good. I am really enjoying that world, those characters, the magic system. That thing is cool, guys. I really like structured magic, and this magic has a lot of rules, and the way it works is just super interesting. I mean, I know Brandon Sanderson is well known for his unique magic systems. I just really love this magic system. It's so cool, and I'm still learning about it. But yeah, that one's going good. Okay, so I will check in with you when I have finished another book.